Hey everyone, welcome to the forest. It's a foggy spring morning and you can just tell something in the air that maybe today, maybe tomorrow, the warblers are gonna arrive. Those neotropical migrants that are on their way up from South and Central America. And I just feel it. We're gonna find some cool birds today. So let's go for a walk. Redbuds are definitely one of a favorite of spring blooming trees. They're extremely pink, beautiful. They also are unique in that they bloom right off the side of the stem instead of at the tips of the branches like a lot of flowering trees do. Also, what's really cool is that they're in the family Fabaceae, which is the pea family. And by looking at the flower with these upward facing petals and then this cup shape that comes down when a pollinator would try to get in, that they're pea flowers. Another beautiful spring flowering tree. This is probably an apple, crab apple. It has really beautiful white fluffy flowers. I think they're kind of what you think of when you think of spring blooming trees, cherries, cherry blossoms, apple blossoms. These are in the Rosaceae family, which is the rose family. Now here's a chance to just barely see what's left of the spicebush flowers. So the spicebush plant, Lindera benzoin, has finally gone into what looks like fruit. So you can see here, the flowers are past, the ovules are swollen, and these are going to produce those beautiful red berries that we see later in the year. And they've already started to leaf out. Fun way to tell this plant apart from some others, it's a low-growing shrub, usually really ubiquitous in woodlands in this area. But if you scrape the bark and smell, it smells very peppery, kind of spicy, as the name implies, spicebush. If you just give it a scratch or take one leaf and kind of crush it up, and you'll notice that strong, really amazing smell to spicebush. So in the last video, we saw these just in bud. This is Paw Paw, Asimina triloba. And I just really love the outside fuzzy brownness of these green buds. Looks like they're probably gonna be open soon. Not quite yet. Looks like the leaves are just breaking bud too. Birds are most active in the morning, so the morning tends to be the best time to go birding. I'm more a fair weather birder. I like to go out when it's nice out. I like to go out when it's convenient for me. And the truth is there's really no bad time to go birding. Probably the time you'll see the least is in the middle of summer when it's really hot. A lot of birds are sitting on nests, so they are not calling quite as much. They're trying to actually be kind of secretive. But otherwise, morning, afternoon, and evening are both really good times to go outside and look for birds. So Shagbark hickories have this shaggy, slothy bark. And any tree that really has a lot of nooks and crannies in the bark is going to be a great place to see birds, because inside all of those tiny little cracks and crevices are bugs, larvae, eggs of different types of bugs, and it's a good place for these birds to find some food. Also, different types of birds like to roost in the protection of these bark crevices, and even bats like to hide out underneath the bark of the shagbark. So a lot of times I'll be out birding and I'll say, I'm not really seeing any of the smaller birds, the warblers, the songbirds. You know, maybe I'm seeing a lot of our common birds, wrens, cardinals, blue jays, titmice, for example. And I realize I'm not looking high up in the canopy. So a lot of the shrubby areas will attract different types of birds than the canopy of the forest will. So up in the canopy right now, there's lots of flowering trees, which means lots of pollinators and insects. Also, there's nectar and food sources in the canopy too. So a lot of birds will actually eat flowers, will eat the buds of trees, not just the bugs or the nectar that's in those flowers. So if you end up bringing your eyes to the sky and looking up, you might see a lot more of those migrant birds or the songbirds that you're not seeing lower down. So you don't really need anything fancy to go birding. I do have a pair of binoculars that I really love, and one thing I recommend is putting them on a holster, on a strap. So when you're out birding a lot, you may get birder neck because one, your binoculars are hanging on your neck, putting weight onto your neck. That can be pretty irritating, but also you're gonna be craning your neck like this a lot to look up and see what kind of birds you can see. So over time, that can really hurt. And if you're out birding every morning or a few times a day, like many of us birders are, you'll feel it pretty quick. So I recommend investing in one of these holsters for your binoculars. And I use Vortex brand, which is a really great brand of binoculars, but I've also used Nikon Monarchs in the past. But there's also some other, levels of binoculars for beginner birders like Bushnells, which are a little more affordable. There's so many out there, and Audubon does a really great job of setting up review systems and, what are the pros and cons of each type. Hopefully we'll put something out about that coming up. All right, here's a really fun find. A cool native shrub that I don't see quite as often. This is the blossoms of the prickly ash, Xanthoxylum americanum, which is arguably one of the coolest native plant names. And it's got these thorns, thus very prickly. And what's really cool is it's part of the Rutaceae family, which is related to the citruses. So it kind of seems a little out of place here as a citrus, right? Well, it also is the host plant for the giant swallowtail butterfly. So the giant swallowtail butterfly, which kind of looks like a little piece of bird poop, so it's very well camouflaged. If you look closely on these later in the year, you might find one. Oh, and I just scared out a little ant. Sorry, bud. So here's the foliage and these beautiful, simple blooms. Very cool find.